Famous failures, disappearing message reading. Section 1. George Lucas, a filmmaker and producer, was born in California in 1944. As a child, Lucas was obsessed with driving race cars. He was in a terrible car crash that almost killed him days before his high school graduation. 2. Lucas was denied a request to join the U.S. Air Force because he had too many speeding tickets. He was drafted to fight in the Vietnam War, but was later rejected because he was diabetic. Then he diverted his attention to producing movies. 3. His movie Star Wars was presented to two different Hollywood studios. His Star Wars script was rejected by both companies. Still, that didn't stop Lucas. He continued to keep hope for his movie. 20th Century Fox finally agreed to a Star Wars movie contract. 4. In 1977, 20th Century Fox had little faith in the Star Wars franchise. They gave away all movie licensing and merchandising rights to George Lucas in exchange for his $500,000 directorial fee. In 2014, the overall value of that same franchise was estimated at $37 billion. He modeled the character of Chewbacca after his personal dog. 5. Katy Perry, a singer and songwriter, was born in Santa Barbara, California in 1984. Katy Perry is her stage name. Her birth name is Catherine Elizabeth Hudson. As a child, her family lived in poverty and survived off of food stamps. 6. She sang at her parents' church from the age of 9 to 17. She grew up listening to gospel music as both of her parents were pastors. By the age of 13, she was a gifted guitar player. When Perry was 15 years old, she dropped out of high school to follow her love of music full-time. 7. At 17 years old, Perry was signed by a record company. She signed with Red Hill Records in 2001 and released an album called Katy Hudson. Katy Hudson is her birth name. Her album only sold 200 copies and was later dropped by the record label. 8. Perry was then signed by Columbia Records, but she was dropped from them as well. In 2007, she signed a contract with Capitol Records and success soared. Along her journey, Perry never gave up her love for music. She was included in Forbes' highest-earning women in music from 2011 to 2018. 9. Bill Gates, an entrepreneur, was born in Seattle, Washington in 1955. An entrepreneur is a person who starts and operates their own business. Bill Gates grew up in a nice neighborhood. His father was a lawyer, and Bill was supposed to follow in his father's footsteps. As a kid, just for fun, Gates wrote a computer program in tic-tac-toe format. When Gates was 17 years old, he started a company called Traf-O-Data with his friend Paul, but the business quickly failed. Gates attended Harvard University, but spent more time playing on computers than attending classes. Gates dropped out of Harvard College to start Microsoft in 1975. Bill knew he wasn't going to give up. 11. At just 23, Gates became the head of Microsoft. The company was later under investigation by the Federal Trade for unfair marketing practices. In 1998, the judge's decision was that Microsoft was guilty. Eventually, Microsoft became the world's largest computer software company. In 2008, Gates resigned from Microsoft. 12. Mark Cuban, a businessman and investor, was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1958. When he was 12, he sold garbage bags so he could afford a pair of new shoes that he liked. He worked at a bank, gave dance lessons, and sold stamps just to make extra money. 13. Mark Cuban learned about failure the hard way, failing over and over again. Cuban tried delivering newspapers. He tried being a chef, but he could never tell when the food was ready. He would cut into the food and taste the dishes he was going to serve. Cuban failed as a computer salesman and was fired before 1 year. 14. When Mark was 25 years old, he started his own company called Micro Solutions, which made over $30 million. In 2004, Cuban was charged with insider trading, but the case was eventually dismissed. As of 2020, Cuban is the owner of the NBA's Dallas Mavericks. He also stars on the TV show Shark Tank.